If I asked you to list 3 things that really hampered your photography, would you be able to do it? I'd have to think about it, but I know one, and it's procrastination. Procrastination is a problem for a whole load of us. I know this because, well, I can't be the only one. Now, I imagine it looks different for many of us. To me, the procrastination is actually the procrastination of getting my arse out of the house. It's beyond midday now, and I had a plan to come out much earlier. I've had to force myself. I really have. And it's a real hampering. Now, tomorrow I've committed to going for a sunrise photography shoot with a bunch of other people from the 617 Club. This is an online community which is spearheaded by Simon Baxter and Tom Heaton. It's a club, if you like, but it's a really friendly bunch of people. There's links down below. If you join using my link, then I will accumulate some points and I'll get additional years free. But that's really not the point. The point is that I have to drive about an hour and a half tomorrow to get to this particular spot, and it's a sunrise shoot. We're trying to get there for kind of 6:30 in the morning, and I've committed to it. There's a car. Let me get out of the road. Yeah, I've committed to doing this, so I'll do it. I'm not looking forward to it, but without that commitment, I'll just stay indoors, and I will miss out because, well, FOMO really doesn't affect me. Once I'm out, I'm as happy as Larry, but it's that effort of getting out. It's the having to change into outdoor clothes. It's the having to get your shoes. It's having to pack all of the stuff in the backpack and drive somewhere. That's the fear. Well, it's not a fear. It's I don't know. I just call it laziness. Procrastination is, to my mind, one of the biggest hindrances I have to my photography. I suppose probably the second problem that I have is choosing somewhere to go. Now, I mean, at this time of the year, it really isn't that hard, I suppose, except I'm lucky enough to have quite a few woodlands around me, so choosing a woodland is often a problem. Although, again, this is one of the best deciduous woodlands around here. Colour is gorgeous. The place is teeming with mushrooms. I mean, why wouldn't I want to come here? But up here it's a different thing. You see, up here, I start to think about the journey time. Where am I going to park? Is it going to rain when I get there? All kinds of things, and I think, oh well, I'll probably just go back to the one I know best, the one that's closest to me, or whatever it happens to be. Or, as what often happens, I don't make a decision and I don't leave the house, which would be a real shame, because I'd miss this beautiful little mushroom just here. Now, you may notice that this is a different hat. It's a hat with wires. And I am aware of how bloody ridiculous this looks. However, what I can see here is a mirror of what I can see there. But what I've got here is bloody big. And you know how we talk about getting it back to a big screen and understanding whether the image is any good? I've brought the big screen with me. Now, I'm quite aware of how silly walking around in the woods with this kind of clobber on is. But let's face it, I often look silly. I'm perhaps not too bothered about it. I might be more concerned on a train, but hey, there's nobody around, so I can look as silly as I fancy. What kind of links in here? with this, and part of the topic of the video is the procrastination, because I've had this for, I don't know, 2-3 weeks perhaps now, and I've been struggling to find a use case for it. I mean, it's technically brilliant. It has flaws. I mean, what doesn't? But yeah, what it is, and I can't easily demonstrate this in here, but look, there's 2 micro OLED screens here pointing straight into my eyes, and they've got something like 115% of the sRGB colour gamut on them. Yeah, the image quality is outstanding, but the use case, well, the use case is more awkward. But I've got to be honest with you, here and now I'm looking at this image that I've just shot of this mushroom, and I'm thinking actually it's rather nice. Now, I mean, there are deficiencies, huge deficiencies, and it's not to do with these, it's to do with everything that allows this to connect to other things, because this has got a USB-C video feed that goes in to a socket on the head here, and in order to get a USB video feed out of my camera, I've got to convert it into an HDMI feed, or rather, yeah, I take an HDMI feed out of the camera into a box that converts it into a USB-C feed, and plug it into this. But the box and this has to be powered by a battery, because it doesn't have a battery built into it. So whichever way I look at the functionality of this, I'm connected to a cable which is connected to something else. If all of those cables are kind of all connected to you and in your pocket, then you can walk around with gay abandon. But they're not here, they're connected to the camera. But I am getting an absolute real-time feed from the camera straight into my retina with this, and I've got to say, it's bloody good. Now, I've put the headset to one side for a moment, not because it's not useful, it genuinely is, but I've decided I need to focus stack this image, because I'm getting too much extraneous detail in the image. I need more of it to be soft and less of it in focus, or not in focus, but you know, too much detail and definition, because this is, and I want you to really work on this idea, because if you are coming out and photographing things like mushrooms often grow in clumps, and you will see me photograph very, very few clumps of mushrooms, because what I want to do is take a portrait of this mushroom, and you don't take portraits of people generally with lots of other people around them. The reason you don't do that is because you want all eyes on the subject. The more detail you have around you, the more that the subject is kind of lost in the melee of everything else that's going on. So mushrooms are subject, I'm very close to it, I have a very shallow depth of field, which I was kind of bringing that up to about f7 at points there, purely to get the mushroom and the stem in focus in one shot. When I have an HDMI feed out of this camera, I can't use focus stacking. That's a roundabout way of getting all the way back to why I'm not using that. But so yeah, the camera will not let me select focus stacking. I mean, even just focus bracketing, it won't let it grays out the option if there's something connected. So I've come out of that, and I've tried a different image, a different technique with it. I'm looking back at that now, just zooming in. I'm a lot happier kind of with that. That's a f3.5, 15 shots, and I think it's a much nicer image than the one I had to start with. So if there's only one tip you take away from this video, it's a philosophical one. It's if you're shooting things like mushrooms or tiny objects, or things that got clutter around them, treat them like you would a portrait. So procrastination, yes, I've been looking at the Goovis Art for quite a while, and not being convinced of its usefulness, not getting a comfortable fit. Then this morning I happened to try the cap, and it was a bit of a revelation, because without the cap I found positioning it very awkward. Spectacles and everything else, just I didn't find that I could get a good location in front of my eyes that made it fit very well. But the cap absolutely changed all of that. And I've got quite a small head and probably a weird shape, and couple that with spectacles made it difficult. But the cap really transformed it. I've been looking at a possible image here. I just like the way that the sun is catching the leaves on the tree over here. And then I thought, well, actually, there's possibly an image, because we've got this one main tree here, you've got another one over to its left, and one sitting in the background, and you've kind of got this zigzag going through. And I'm thinking, well, there might be an image there. And then I'm thinking, well, I'm going to have to change lens, and is it really worth it? Is the image that good? And then I spotted all of the new tree protectors over here, these green plastic things sticking up, because I wasn't concentrating on those to start with. And I thought, how the hell am I going to hide those in a composition? I might be able to get rid of one or two, but everything's a compromise, isn't it, when you're working in situations like this? Because I've got to have space between this tree, that tree, and that tree. Well, obviously there is space, but I mean, that gap on either side, it has to work. Which means that in a portrait style shot, I can probably get the three of them and avoid this bunch of them out here. But then there's two or three in the background, and I don't know whether I can do that. And then it's, well, is it worth it? And this is kind of the third thing that tends to ruin my images. It's not noticing things. Seeing what we are trying to photograph and not noticing the things that we absolutely don't bloody want. If you were asked to name the three things that you think are most negatively affecting your photography, would you be able to do it? The reason I ask is because if you can identify things that are not working for you, then you can work to fix those things. There's a lot of sense in this kind of idea, because one of the biggest problems that we find is that we take photographs, we go back to our computer, we get them large, and we decide we don't like them. Now, of course, this Goovis Art personal what's it thingy can really help you kind of partly solve that problem, because you can get them really big while you're still out. I mean, you could still do that, arguably, I suppose, with a tablet or a laptop. Tablet perhaps less of a faff than a laptop, but you've got a number of options. But if you're travelling, perhaps one of those Goovis Art things that I've got in the backpack could be very, very useful. Now, I'm speaking for myself very much here, because I can't be certain that you experience this problem as well. But the problem is, and it's quite a simple one, we can get our images onto a big screen and be disappointed by them. We can be disappointed by the the outcome because it's not what we expected. But disappointment and knowing why you're disappointed are two very different things. If you can identify what it is that's wrong with the image, then you can address that, which is what I was saying about the three things holding you back. If you can identify what it is that's holding you back, that's stopping you getting those great images, then you can work on those three things. Frank Capra famously said that if you're not getting great images, you're not close enough. Or it's a quote very similar to that. Certainly that's one of the ways that you can really work on things like woodland photography, because getting great images amongst hugely busy scenes. I was avoiding using the word chaotic. I guess that's subjective as well. What is chaos? I mean, it's not organised, but yeah, everything's living amongst everything else and just getting on with it. That's not really chaos, is it? Perhaps what I should say is we're photographing a symbiotic relationship. It just doesn't translate into a 2D world in the same way that it exists in a 3D world. But if we go back to an image, well, actually we can't go back to it because it was in a members video. No, sorry, I'll show you it because it absolutely illustrates the point that I'm making here. Roll VT from the members video. Sorry members, you'll have to forgive me, but it saves me finding another subject. Carrying something like this with you when you're out in the woods is not just for macro. Here I've used it to illuminate a leaf behind here. Now the light's dropping quite a bit now, so certainly I don't have a great deal of light. I was having to go up to ISO 800 to get about 1/100th of a second on this, and I needed it just because there's a bit of a breeze, that things are moving. If I risked it at kind of a 25th of a second, it wasn't enough. This, of course, allows me to really cut that ISO back down. I was getting 3/20th of a second with this, probably not on full power. I wasn't paying attention to the power, I was paying attention to where it's illuminating. And the other huge benefit of something like this is actually you can be very positional with it. So here in this this image, you probably really can't see this on here, but the leaf is bright, but the background's quite bright as well. But if I get the angle right, and this is at 5600 Kelvin, if I can get in here, I mean, you probably can't see, but what we have is a huge increase in contrast in camera. I mean, obviously I could do it in post, but by boosting the contrast in camera, I've got a much better image that I don't have to play with later. I won't play with as much, and yeah, I'm really quite happy with it. Now, I'm not going to pretend that analysing what's wrong with your own image is easy. It absolutely isn't. You do have to kind of train yourself to do it. I'm not very good at it myself. And I think actually that's very much to my detriment, because one of the things that I tend to do is if I don't like an image, I just scroll on by. And that might simply be because it's not screaming at me from beyond the screen. It might be a good image, but because I'm shooting raw, it may be just a little bit lackluster, and I tend to ignore it. Where I get the best critical analysis, shall we say, for these images is when I show them to somebody else that I trust, and they say, oh yeah, I like it, but, and it's that but that's the important thing. Or maybe I don't like it, don't do it again. Whatever it happens to be, someone that you trust is really important here. And not everybody's got that person, for sure, which is why perhaps you might consider joining a club, perhaps a club like the 617, because you can upload your images to that, and people will and say, look, yeah, what do you think of this? What's right about it? What's wrong about it? And people will give you their honest feedback. Yeah, not everybody is going to like it. Not everybody's going to hate it. A lot of people might come back and say, if only. You see what I'm saying? You kind of need this community to help you out of a situation. Now, the 617's in my mind quite a bit at the moment, because not only am I going to a meet tomorrow in Thetford Forest, I'm also next week going on a photography trip with a bunch of photographers. I'm going to the Lake District. It's down near a 7-hour drive. I don't like driving, no, not that kind of distance, alone, but it's going to be worth it. The trip sees me and a bunch of other photographers staying at the country's most remote hostel, the Black Sail Youth Hostel at Black Sail Paths, which is about 6 miles walk from the nearest car park. Now, if you've been watching this video, you'll appreciate that I'm not really built for a 6-mile walk. I mean, on a flat I can manage it, uphill and down dale, but I'm absolutely looking forward to it. It's very inexpensive because it's a youth hostel, and I'm going to be out with a bunch of other people, my peers, people who are better than me as a photographer by far, and I hope to learn quite a lot from it. I want to give you another tip for taking better photos, and you may think this is mad, and I'm going to start by saying that you, whoever you are watching, you are one of the reasons I take better photos. Might seem strange, but let me explain why. I take better photos because I'm talking directly to you. I don't know who you are. You know, there's nearly 10,000 subscribers on the channel. You could be one of a couple of thousand people that watch this. I don't know you from Adam. You don't know me from Adam. But what you specifically are doing is making me talk. And here and now, there's nobody around. I'm talking to myself, which again may seem strange, but I'm not. I'm talking to you. And as I'm talking to you, one of the things I tend to do is I raise the camera and I look at things and I start talking again to myself, but to you. And I analyse what I'm looking at in real time, because I tend to describe it. Now I'm describing it to you, but I'm also describing it to me, myself. And that's the key thing here, because let me just turn us around here. We've got this fantastic tree there. And I'm thinking, oh, what a wonderful shape. There's something in that. And as I kind of raise the camera to my eye and start looking at it, I'm portrait and landscape, and I'm looking at it and thinking, that is a fantastic structure. But how do I photograph it? Well, the sensible thing to do in terms of composition is to stick it to one side. So, yeah, left-hand side of the frame, it kind of crawls out of the top, and it looks fantastic. But the problem is, look, there's nothing else here. Everything else kind of just sits back in the frame. And I'm thinking, I don't know how to make that work, because whilst it frames the left-hand side and the top of the image, there's nothing else much to look at. Yeah, there's a stump over there. There's a few small branches kicking up in between. But it's not it's not a scene apart from the subject, which I've decided to shove off to one side, which is semi-crazy. But look, if we stick it in the middle, that doesn't work very well either, because actually still there's not a lot over there, but there's quite a lot over here, confusing the matter. So it doesn't become an image. And I can decide that in real time because I'm talking to you, but I'm talking to me. Does that make sense? I've been inspired recently by a number of images, mostly woodland images, where the mushroom is still very much the subject, but we have a very deep photo. It's not an image where everything's soft except for the mushroom. It's an image where you're getting a big woodland scene, but the mushroom is the focal point. I've got something down here right now where there's some little thready bracket funguses on a fallen log, and we've got this little kind of golden orange ones, and I've got a kind of zigzag path to them, and I think the scene behind is quite nice in itself, because it's just a woodland scene. I think it works though. Quite close to the brackets, focus stacking it, because I'm not going to get it all in one go. I might get it in 2 shots, I suppose, but I'm just letting the camera get on with its thing. It's a deep aperture. I think it's f11, f13, something like that. It's not macro, and it just kind of leads off. Now, on the back of the camera, the image isn't dynamic enough. I'm shooting it pretty much where the camera's like me to suggest it should be. It's not over or underexposed, but I know I've got to play with it in post-production. I think it's lacking a certain amount of contrast, so I'm going to have to add that later. And that's the analysis that I'm giving it here and now. It might be different when I get it onto a big screen. Why am I not putting it on the Goovis Art goggles? It's because it's a real faff, and as I already said, the camera disables focus stacking whilst I do that. And I could, I suppose, put it on the goggles and look at it post taking on an image replay. But that really is a lot of faffing about. I'm quite confident that I can probably make it work without being 100% certain here. I could load it into my phone, but I mean, it's not that much bigger a screen than it's on the back of the camera. And actually, one of the big advantages of taking an HDMI feed out of the camera is you can get a very clean feed, i.e. you can strip off all of the crap that the camera sticks on the image. The exposure details and all that stuff. Okay, I'm going to be honest, I wasn't that confident, and now I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, bloody hell, that looks nice. It does need more contrast, but oh wow, it does look nice. And actually, one of the other things, let me say this now, is when I was doing that very first mushroom, and the image is portrait, of course the goggles don't know it's portrait, so it's showing me a landscape version, so it's rotated by 90 degrees. Here, when the camera's replaying it, it does know it's portrait, and it's getting up the right way. Right, so if I'm really disappointed with this image, having reviewed it in big terms here, I don't know what I'm going to do, because here and now I'm excited by this image. It's the first time I've tried something like this, and I think it looks really nice. It's not the best image in the world, but for a first attempt, it works here and now. For God's sake, I hope this bloody works, because it will prove the usefulness of this. And I'm deciding, actually, is it that much more fuss than setting up the tripod?